Okay, well, welcome everyone to Vintage Shell Stitch today. I am Jenny Bowden. I will be moderating the event and we will be learning from Dana Neild. She is one of our wonderful editors over at Fave Crafts. If you haven't heard about Fave Crafts, let me tell you a little bit more about us. We are a website that shares free craft tutorials from all over the internet. We have a variety of free email newsletters broken down by interest, like Easy Does Knit, which is one of our knitting newsletters, Everyday Crochet, Trash to Treasure, which is a slew of recycled crafts, and more. You can sign up for any of our free newsletters at favecrafts.com, and I will post the subscribe link in the chat as well if you guys would like to sign up. It's completely free. We are recording today's class, like I said, and we will send an email with a link to the recording 24 hours from right now. So if you need to leave early, if you're joining us late, if Dana's going so fast and you can't keep up, no worries. I would encourage everyone to just listen, be patient with yourself, practice after the class, and we will email a link to the video so you can watch it as many times as you want and pause and slow down, et cetera, et cetera. Please use the Q&A as we're going if you have any questions. And then I have just a quick introductory offer from our friends at I Like Crochet. This is a digital crochet magazine. It's normally $49 for a year subscription. If you're not yet a member of I Like Crochet, we have a great introductory offer for you for just $5 for the whole year. So that gets you access not only for the next 12 months, but you also get access to all of the back issues as well. So it's a completely digital publication, completely ad-free. All of the patterns are tech edited. It's a really great gift idea for the holidays if you're already thinking of ahead to the holidays like me. So if you're a member already and you love it so much and you want to gift it to a friend or family member, that is an option as well. And I will post a link to claim that deal in the chat. It's ilikecrochet.com/virtual23. And then before I pass it over to Dana, I'll just tell you a little bit more about Dana if you haven't taken a class from her before. She is the editor of favecrafts.com. She's been crocheting for 10 years and she loves making baby blankets for friends and family. She is enthusiastic about patterns that feature an easy repeat so she can work them up while hanging out with family or listening to a podcast. Her personal blog is dananeild.com, so feel free to check her out. And without further ado, I'm going to stop doing a screen share and pass it over to Dana.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight the hand cam. Hello. These are the materials that we're going to need for today's class. So at least 2 colors of yarn from your stash. And I said in the class description, it can be like a DK weight, it could be worsted weight. Sorry about that. Looks like my hand cam froze. Okay. All right. It can be a DK weight, it can be worsted weight, or it could be bulky weight. You just want the correct hook that corresponds with the yarn weight. So I've got worsted weight yarn today. And this is an I9 hook, and then a tapestry needle for weaving in your ends. I grabbed 2 because I wasn't sure which one I wanted, and then scissors. So I'm going to push all this out of the way. Here are the swatches for today's class. So I did a bulky swatch and a DK weight swatch. The bulky swatch is the colors I used for the baby blanket pattern, which I dropped in the chat. So you can see what like a full blanket or a larger project would look like than just 3 rows, kind of wobbly rows on the swatch. And this is changing every colors. This is including that single crochet border. For the DK weight swatch, this is showing it in just a single color, which is actually slightly trickier than changing colors, which is interesting. You don't see that very often in crochet patterns. All right, a couple other little things about the stitch. If you are making it as a blanket, just something to be aware of is there are these larger gaps that you don't see when the blanket's laying flat or the project's laying flat, but that is a quality of the pattern. Actually, that might have been the only thing I was going to mention about it. It's just that there's some gaps. All right. Oh, and the nice thing too is it's very easy to count rows in this pattern. So, and we can go over that more as we go, but you know, it's row here, a row here, a row there. So it's a nice quality of the pattern. And usually I recommend using stitch markers, but for this pattern, it's so easy to know when you're at the end of your rows that I don't really think it's necessary. All right, to get started, we're going to do a slip knot. What I like to do with the slip knot is I just twist it twice. So I wrap twice to twist, pinch one of the ends of the yarn, and pull it through until it is snug. Kind of, I could do that one more time. Just, I don't know, maybe a lot of folks here know how to do a slip knot already. I'm not sure. I should have asked what you guys, your experience level is before you got here. But once again, you just make a loop, twist it twice, pinch one of your loose ends, and pull it through. Snug it up on the hook. Okay, for this pattern, you can chain, we're going to chain 18 for the class. You can chain any multiple, I believe it's any multiple of 6. Yep, any multiple of 6. So we'll do 18 to begin the class. And just yarn over and pull through. All right. So you've got your starting chain for row 1. You're going to skip 5 chains. And then in the 6th chain from the hook, you're going to do 4 treble crochets. So these first 5 chains or so, they count as a treble crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the 6th chain from the hook. In order to do your treble crochet, you're going to yarn over twice. So 1, 2, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through. So you've got lots of loops on your hook right now. 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. Oh, you've got, this is the start of your row. Going to do 3 more treble crochets in the same stitch. So yarn over twice, insert your hook, pull up a loop. Got 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. So it's your next step for a double crochet. Instead of yarning over once and then inserting in the loop or in the stitch, you yarn over twice. All right. I'm gonna do that 2 more times in the same stitch. Yarn over twice, insert your hook, pull up a loop, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then 1 more time. All right, and we've already got our first shell done. All right, and now we're going to skip 5 more chains, and in the 6th chain. Oh, actually, let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're on the 6th chain again. We're actually going to single crochet to attach the yarn to that stitch. So just gets the yarn where you need it to be. And the single crochet plus chain 2 is about the height of your treble crochet. So this counts as the first treble crochet in the row. Just like the chain over here, the starting chain counted as the first double crochet in the row. And now that we've got the yarn fastened here, it's 4 treble crochets in that same chain space again. So yarn over twice, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops, pull through 2 loops. And we're going to do that 3 more treble crochets in the same stitch. Jenny, are there any questions so far?
No, I have not seen any come through the chat, but I actually can't see the Q&A right now. So yeah, I would like you to check the Q&A when you get a moment.
I don't see like the
there we go.
notification
I
icon.
see it now. No, there are no questions in the Q&A.
Okay, great. I imagine I've got some, well, especially seeing so many familiar names in the chat, I know that I've got some experienced crocheters, so this is probably like easy peasy to start with. First 2 shells, and you'll see here, this is like a lot of loop, a lot of chain right here. And it actually looks really pretty, I think, at the bottom of the pattern when you're done, because you've got kind of this, I don't even know what to call it. It almost looks like lace or something at the bottom. If you wanted, if you didn't like how like loopy that is, you might be able to get away with a smaller multiple. But I thought it was most convenient to just do, okay, every 6th, you chain a multiple of 6 to start, and every 6th chain is where you place your stitches. So
we have a quick question from Debbie in the chat. How many treble crochet in the stitch?
What was that?
How many TC in the stitch? I think that's treble crochet.
Yes, yes. So the treble crochets, you're going to do 4 in each stitch. This right here is a single crochet and chain 2 to start. And then we do the 4 treble crochets, same stitch. Oh, unless you meant turning chains to start. How many chains to start? Let me see. No, how many treble crochets in the stitch? Yeah, you'll do 4. Fantastic.
And we do have a question from Karen in the Q&A, which I will just go ahead and answer live. She's having trouble keeping up because it's been a few years since she's been an avid crocheter. She's wondering if she can watch this later. So yes, Karen, we are recording, and we will email a link to the recording in 24 hours. So you can pause and practice as much as you'd like.
Right, fantastic. So I'm going to do one more set of shells in the chain here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So to attach the yarn, in a single crochet. Actually, you've got a couple options here. So in my swatch here, I did another set of shells up to the very end. If you wanted, in the pattern, it's written just single crochet at the end, and that's how you attach your yarn. For this demo, because this is only 2 shells, I want to show one more. I'm going to do another shell. So it's kind of up to you and what you know, how, if you like the look, it's kind of tomato. So again, you'll attach your yarn in that final stitch of the chain with a single crochet. And to place a shell there, chain 2, that gets you up to the treble crochet height. Yarn over twice, and insert in the same space. Pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Debbie's asking, I'm a beginner, the first chain you make, 18, will be the total length of the project. Yes. So if you're making a blanket, longer chain, multiple of 6. So for the baby blanket that I made, I chained 114. Let me see what the finished size of that blanket was. It ended up being about 28 by 32. So even that's like on the smaller side for a baby blanket. Probably chain like 120, 126, even 132 for a bigger baby blanket. But yes, I would say at least 114 for the baby blanket. Good question. All right, I've got 1 treble crochet in there so far. Got 3 more to go. Anybody have any other questions? Have people done treble crochet before or other variations on the shell stitch? Linda says she's done treble crochet, but it was a while ago. First treble for Jen. Victoria loves doing treble crochet. I love it too, Pam. I was really looking for like a quicker pattern at the time I made this baby blanket. In short, I was invited to a baby shower I didn't expect to be invited to. And I was like, oh, I want to make a blanket, but I got to go quick. So, yeah, it was, treble crochet is great because it does work up fast since it's such a tall stitch. So here's that starting chain. So we're all set. So again, you could have ended right here with just a single crochet to attach. And if you did that, you'd have this starting like loopy chain continuing all the way to the end here. Otherwise, like now it's just this extra shell. Again, it's kind of what you prefer as far as the look. But for the class, I wanted to show the 3 shells. So at this point, I'm going to cut the yarn. I usually leave like a 4 to 6 inch tail. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull that through to secure it. There's row 1. Okay. In order to, we're going to attach our new color now. Linda, I think the loopy area is pretty too. You know, I think I would prefer to just end on a single crochet, and that is how I wrote it in the pattern. Again, I wanted to show the 3 shells for the class. So yeah, okay. So in order to do our next row, we're going to turn our work. And we're attaching the yarn in the single crochet chain 2 space. So that's the first stitch in each of our shells. So right here is where we're going to attach the new yarn. So we ended here, but we're attaching the new yarn over here, which is why I think it's a little, I don't even want to say easier. It's just different, changing colors each row. Because you're just always fastening off and attaching the new color in a new spot. See if I can hold that a little higher so it's easier to see. To attach the new color, we're going to insert our hook again, like underneath here in the loop, underneath your single crochet chain 2. Loop the yarn over your hook and pull through. And then to secure it, with your long tail, the tail attached to the ball of yarn, just chain 1. Okay. Now we're going to single crochet into that same space. and chain 2. And again, that gets us to our treble crochet height. That up a little bit. All right, and then we're working the rest of our treble crochets in the same chain 2 space. So 4 treble crochets in the chain 2 space. Yarn over twice, insert the hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Wrap twice, insert the hook and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. 2 more times. So something else that is really nice about this stitch is that you're working into such big areas, big gaps in working underneath or in this chain 2 space. You're not trying to work into like a turning chain at all, the whole pattern, which is kind of nice. It's one of my least favorite things to do. You're working into really easy, big areas. So that's our next shell in the next row. Now we gotta jump over to get into our next chain 2 space. So in order to do that, I'm just going to kind of lean over, pull up your loop. We're going to do that single crochet to attach.
Dana, Victoria is wondering if you're only using one color, would you cut and start in chain space?
That is a great question. I would not. I've got a in short, we're going to slip stitch to get to the space that we want. And I'll probably show that at this point. I'll show that after intermission. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Cutting the yarn and weaving in ends for no reason. I was like, that sounds horrible. So I wanted to test that out because the tutorial I followed in order to learn this stitch only showed changing colors. And I thought, oh, is that the only way you can do it? Because what if you want to do one color? It's a pretty stitch with just one color as well. So no, you can slip stitch across the top of the first shell in the row in order to get the yarn to the correct chain 2 space to begin the shells. And yeah, I'll show that after the break. Do a couple more treble crochets. Yarn's getting a little tangled. Let's see. All right, so we worked across 2 of those chain 2 spaces. Now we're nearing the end of the row, and you're going to go, in this case, this isn't the chain 2, this is the original turning chain, and that's where we're going to work the final shell of the row. So it's going to feel like you're making a shell kind of off, way off to the side, but that's how you finish the row and how you get those like zigzaggy edges. So once again, you'll single crochet in that gap there to attach, chain 2 to get to the height, and 4 treble crochets in that final stitch. And there's our first 2 rows. It doesn't look like a whole lot yet. But as we, as the pattern takes shape, and especially if you're working on a larger project, the color changes really start to look lovely as you get a few more rows in. So, all right, I've got 11:26 on my clock. Jenny, if you want to do the intermission now, maybe I'll get another row going. And then after the intermission, I'll show working with just one color.
Perfect. So I will go back and do my screen share here. And can you all see the ILC slide that we talked about? I think so.
Yes.
Okay, so next up, we wanted to just talk about a few of our upcoming classes that Dana will be moderating. This is a sewing class. So if you guys would like to expand your skills and learn how to sew a tote bag, this is a great class sponsored by our friends We Like Sewing, which is again one of our other digital magazines. It's all about sewing. I can post a link to sign up for that as well. But Tuesday, August 8th at 11 a.m. Central Time will be our Learn to Sew a Simple Tote Bag class. This is again free. So if you can't make the date or time, I would still encourage you to sign up, and you will get a link to the recording just like we're doing today in 24 hours. So if you want to learn how to make the bag, feel free to sign up. And then our next class here is Tuesday, August 22nd. Dana, I actually don't have the name of this class. Let me see if it's in my
Sorry. I should have
Uh,
probably put that on the slide. It's mosaic knitting, and Christy, one of our editors, is actually teaching that class.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Okay. So is that a knitting class, did you say? Mosaic?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
mosaic knitting.
Perfect. So you can sign up at all of those classes. The links will be available on our Eventbrite page later this week, favecrafts.eventbrite.com. And yeah, so we have a knitting magazine, we have a sewing magazine, and we have the crochet magazine. So I'm going to post links to all 3 of those offers in the chat. So if you want to check out our knitting magazine or our sewing magazine, that same deal still applies for the introductory offer today. So they're all about $50 for the year. But if you take advantage of the introductory offer, you get a 1-year subscription for just $5. So I will post a link to that in the chat. And then I think that's it. This is just, again, one more time, our I Like Crochet offer. But like I said, that offer applies for our other magazines as well. The We Like Sewing magazine, plus I Like Knitting. So Dana, I think that is it for the intermission.
Fantastic.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got this far with another row during the intermission. So we're in the final the final shell of the row. So I single crocheted, chain 2 to join. I'm going to do the 4 treble crochets. And once I get that situated, I'll show you guys how to continue in the same color if you would prefer. I'm a big fan of uneven stripes in blanket patterns. I think it's a great way to use up yarn in your stash if you have miscellaneous amounts left of each yarn. And I think it looks really modern and kind of trendy. And so say you want to do uneven stripes with the shell blanket that you're working on. You can sometimes change colors every row and sometimes do a few rows in a row of the same color. So, okay. We've got our little swatch up to 3 colors now, or 3 rows of the swatch. And again, especially if you're changing color every row, it is so easy to see what row you're on. Because there's your 3 rows. It's easy peasy. So in some ways, this is a good pattern for beginners, even though there's some next step levels or skills. That's the word I'm looking for. Next step skills, like treble crochet. So if you want to continue in the same color, we're going to turn our work. And I am just going to slip stitch across the top of these 4 treble crochets I just made. To slip stitch, all you do is insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through both loops. Start, yarn over, pull through both. Insert, yarn over, pull through both. Or pull through both. So that helped us get across the top of the shell. So we're right back where we should be in this, like at this chain 2 space. Now, when you slip stitch across the top, it does add a tiny bit of height, like just a teensy bit, but it's not very noticeable, first of all, because it's such a small amount of height. And if you're putting a border on the blanket, which I do recommend, that'll get hidden with the border anyway. So yeah, pretty easy way. And then you don't have to deal with cutting your yarn every row, and weaving in all those extra ends. So we're back at the starting chain, or sorry, the chain 2 space where we need to be. And you'll just single crochet and chain 2 to start your row. And then you'll do your 4 treble crochets per usual. I'm seeing how many different ways there are to do shell stitch. Like it's almost like infinite. I don't know. I've seen, you know, shell stitches with 5 stitches in each row, alternating single crochets, alternating V stitches. The list goes on, and they're always so pretty every time. There's your start of the next row. And what I'll do, I'll finish out this row and then I'll show the border. Anybody has questions along the way? I actually wasn't going to put a border on this blanket when I made it, because I thought, oh, these shells are so pretty, and you know, it's the zigzagging edges are really cool. I don't think I need a border. I mean, the shell stitches just shine without one. But as I got further into the blanket, it looked, the zigzag edges that I thought looked really cool at first looked almost like raw edges. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but it looked unfinished. It looked like fabric was cut with pinking shears or something. It wasn't it didn't look done. And so I decided to just put a really simple single crochet border around the edges in a variegated yarn that I had used in the pattern as well. And I was really happy with the results. It gave it that polished finish without, I just didn't want to have a huge border on the blanket because I really wanted those shell stitches to shine. So uh, 2 more treble crochets in this last. Now you'll know that you've reached the end of the row because each row you almost feel like you're going too far at the edge, because that last shell kind of spills over the other side. So if you're over here and you think, well, this could be the end of the row because it's just, you know, this much space left, you want to have it in your head, feel as though you're going too far, and that's how you know you've made it. At this point, you'll cut your yarn. As you can see, there's already a bunch of ends to weave in when you're changing colors every row. So have a TV show going or something when it comes time to weave in the ends. Hold this sample a little closer so you can see a bit more of the stitch detail. So that is the stitch, but again, yeah, you've got these, again, the edges, they look unfinished. And so I'm going to bring over my little orange sample that was all one color. Well, let's see, I see a question came through. So Linda's saying, could you use 2 skeins of the same color yarn, work across, drop the first skein, turn your work, and use the second skein? Drop that skein at the end, turn your work, and pick up with the first skein. That way you wouldn't have to slip stitch across and you could avoid a bunch of ends to weave in. Just a thought. That is a good thought. You would end up with a bunch of floats if you did that, if I'm visualizing this correctly in my mind. Actually, because if you're doing 2, you're changing, I would, Linda, I would have to work up a swatch. I'm having a hard time visualizing it, other than I'm thinking of floats, but maybe there wouldn't be bad floats, especially if you tack them down. I'd have to get back to you on that question, but you're right. It would be nice to not have to slip stitch across. It'd be nice to, and especially nice to not have to weave in your ends. Well, then I'm wondering, yeah, you could you could tack them down when you do the edging, right? Because you're doing the edging anyway. Yeah, I guess I would say it's, it's up to your preference then, because then you've got 2 skeins of yarn that are attached to your work at all times, which is fine. It's just like not as on the go friendly, and then you're untangling the yarn and all that. But then you don't have all those ends to weave in. So yeah, I would say it's up to your preference. That's a really good question.
If you scroll up, Dana, there was also a question from Debbie. She's wondering how a variegated yarn would work with this, with the shell stitch. It's a tongue twister.
I love the variegated yarn with the shell. Let me see. There's a variegated yarn in the pattern that I did. I liked alternating it with solid color yarn that coordinated, because I think if I just did the variegated yarn, it would kind of take away from showcasing the shell stitch, like the texture of the shell stitch. But I don't know, I haven't worked up a whole swatch in variegated yarn, and it probably depends like how variegated we're talking, right? So I wish there was a good, easy way to share. Maybe I'll just share my screen to share images in the Zoom. I'll share the screen right now because let's see. See the web page, Jenny?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fantastic. So if I kind of zoom in here, these rows here are the variegated ones, but this yarn also alternated between like, it would have like these green and pink flecks, and then just be pink and white, and then it would be kind of this soft pink. I think up here is that soft pink. And so if I did the whole blanket in that, I think that would look really cool, because there were some solid swatch, like solid color within the variegated skein. But I think if the whole pattern was this pink, green, white variegated, it might look kind of busy, but it's still, I don't know, it would still be pretty. I think it would just, I think it wouldn't showcase the shell stitch as much. And so it's kind of a personal preference thing, I would say. Thank you, Laura, for the kind feedback. Laura said she loves how the variegated yarn looks every few rows. Thanks for the feedback about the colors, everyone. Okay, I've got, let's see. So let's go ahead and get started on the border. Make sure we've got plenty of time for that. So I'm going to do it on this swatch because the ends are woven in already. And what I like to do when I do any border on a blanket is start, well, or in a dishcloth or something, anything square-ish. I like to start in the upper right-hand corner and work along the top to begin. And the reason I say that is because working into the sides is tricky and it can be hard to feel out how far apart to space your stitches. But if you start in the top where you're just working across the stitches, then you get a feel for how far apart to space them when you're working. So I'm going to insert my hook under both loops in the top right stitch. Up the loop of yarn. Sure you have your working yarn that's attached to the ball. And chain 1 to attach. And tighten that up. Single crochet in the same stitch. Start working across. What I found worked best for the border on this pattern, and again, it's just one row of single crochet. It's very simple. Try to get around 6 single crochet stitches around each shell. Once in a while, you might have 5, but aim for 6, and that seemed to do the best job with tension, not making the border too tight or too loose or ruffly either. Although if you like ruffles, then you put a few extra stitches in if you want. Okay, so we're just going to work across. On the top, we're just working across the top of the treble crochets, which is easy peasy for now. So I'm going into the top of those 4 treble crochets. Just doing the single crochet. And then here we've got the start of the shell, which is the single crochet chain 2. I'm going to put a single crochet in the top of that single crochet. And I'm going to put a single crochet in this chain 2 space. That gives us about 6 single crochets per shell. 4 here, and then the 2 up the side of the next one. All right, and now we're back at another series of 4 treble crochets and work across. Crochet again, I'm going to insert into, oops. Chain 2 space, I'll put a single crochet into. Okay, then we start working around. Since I have the 4 single crochets along the top here, I'm going to put 2 around this last treble crochet. And I would say See, this is working in the sides is definitely the most time consuming and challenging. I don't want to wrap the whole treble crochet because then it'll get kind of hidden and you'll have this smaller stitch because this will be hidden by the border. So I'm going to try to work 2 single crochets into like the stitches. This is definitely the most time consuming part of doing the border. I don't know about you guys. When I get to the border on a blanket, I'm just so eager to be done. And so I'm like, this working along the sides, this is taking me a while. But it's worth it because it ends up looking pretty. So got the 2 stitches along the sides there. And then what's interesting as you work the border, and it's hard to tell because this is a kind of small swatch. Every other shell you're working into the side of a treble crochet, and then you're working along the tops of treble crochets because that's the right side row, I guess is what I should say there. So part of the border is easy because you're working at the top of those stitches, and then part's a little tedious. I'm going to put a stitch here where there's that big kind of eyelet. And then more or less, I'm going to try to do 4 stitches along the top of this treble crochet. Fairly, in general, try to get under at least 2 loops of fabric, of yarn, I mean, because then it's just a little more secure. I'm having a lot of trouble with this very last. There we go. Anybody else use their fingernails a lot when they're working into tricky stitches? That's my kind of my go-to thing. Oh, Linda, you're so sweet. I'm so glad you love the edging. Kind of an interesting color combination. This is the yarn that I just happened to have available that I thought showed up okay on camera. We've got orange and gray. All right, so the bottom is a little easier than the sides. What I found easiest is working 5 single crochets into the bottom of this lacy edging. Got 2 like lacy bits there. This is the treble crochet, so I'm going to try to work into it. But about 5 single crochets into this lacy part and then tacking it down with a final single crochet in the bottom of your 4 treble crochets. A little hard to see, but hopefully that makes some sense. Over to that lacy edging at the bottom. You can see it in this example actually right here, so this is the bottom, and I think it looks really pretty on the bottom. There's your 5 single crochets, and then the bottom of the treble crochets is where you've got like another tacked down stitch. Order advice I've heard is that if it feels like you're kind of stretching too much to get to the next stitches, your border, you probably need to add more stitches along your border. And if it feels like your border's really ruffling, then do fewer stitches. I think that's pretty good advice, especially when you just have like 1 or 2 rows on the border. Otherwise, I like a little more precision, because if you're doing like a border that's 7 rows or something, the way it starts is really important, because that'll determine if you end up with a lot of ruffles or a lot of pulling that you need to try to block out or something. 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my 5 single crochets along that bottom part. And then the bottom of this treble crochet is where I'm going to put in that last stitch. This is super stretchy too, especially because this one's a cotton yarn. And so it worked out that this starting chain is, you know, really stretchy. You won't have that as much if you're doing acrylic. It's something to keep in mind. Karen says the edging really does make it look finished and defines the shells. For a long time, I thought blanket borders were kind of a necessary evil. Again, you finished the bulk of the project. You just want to, you know, you're so excited to either use it or give it away. And then you've got this border to put on. But when you have just either a really simple border that's quick or a really pretty border that makes that blanket just shine, it's so satisfying. I've got a waffle stitch blanket pattern that's actually not coming out until October, because I'm not giving it away until September at a baby shower. And that pattern, there's waffle stitch blankets that you can find online that don't have a border, and they look really nice. They actually look really nice without the border. But I did it in a cotton yarn. It was actually the same, some of the same type brand of this cotton yarn. And I was so worried it was going to just stretch out so badly that I'm like, oh, I need a border on this to really define it. I ended up doing a moss stitch border in 7 rows of it. And I'm so thrilled with how it turned out. I'm so excited. I'm sad I'm not publishing the pattern until October, because I'm just really eager to share it. But, okay, we're starting to get along the edge again, and it's the same situation. You do 4 single crochets as you work along the top of any treble crochets, and then about 2 into the sides. Very tightly, apparently. $54 on the clock already, my goodness. Elizabeth says a border makes almost everything better. I appreciate that comment. Thank you. Like I said, it was like a hurdle I had to get over in my mind when it came to blankets. Okay. And then as we get to the end here, we're just going to slip stitch to join to that very first stitch. Oh, also, often with borders, you do like 2 or 3 stitches into the corners. And I don't really think that's necessary with this one, because there aren't like sharp corners really in the pattern. You're just working your way around the shells, and you're doing the same, you know, average 6 stitches around each shell. So that's another thing that makes the border, this border, easy and worth it. All right, so I just slip stitched. I guess I'll show the slip stitch join just. So here's that first single crochet of the round we did. Just insert your hook under both loops, yarn over, and pull through both to join. Put the yarn over and pull through to secure it, and then you'll weave in those last border edges. That's, let's see, get that nicely centered. That is a very little swatch to show how your border looks and how the pattern will look when you complete it. Let's just put all the swatches here. Here's our swatch we worked on during class. All right. Any last questions before we close out?
All right. Well, Dana, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. I hope everyone learned something. And like I said, you will receive a link to the video recording in 24 hours. Karen said, let's see, Karen said on that last one, the larger opening would drive me crazy. Is that normal?
Yeah, I think this is probably a tension problem that I must have had when I made the swatch the other day. What you can do, a couple things, you could do 1 or 2 fewer stitches, and that'll hopefully help it stretch out less. You can try to block it out by pinning it closer together, especially with any natural fibers. Trying to block it out should hopefully help. You could do the opposite and stretch these out if you're going to block it. Those would be my 3 tips. But yeah, I get what you're saying, because that didn't happen on this other swatch, and it's the same amount of stitches. So.
And Jane is wondering what yarn you used, Dana.
Oh boy. Okay. So I've got several different, it was a lot of stash yarn. I know this is Red Heart Soft. This is from Hobby Lobby. It's called Sugar Wheel Cotton, and they've got a lot of really pretty colorways. They might be clearancing it out, unfortunately, but they've got other, Yarn Bee brand cotton yarn. I'm actually not sure what this gray one is. I think I don't even want to say. It was like a freebie thing that I got. So these, let me look. Oh, I wrote it in the pattern. This is the same yarn I used for the pattern. So let's see. It's Brown Sheep Company Shepherd's Shades yarn. And that's a bulky weight yarn for the green and pink.
All right, good questions, everyone. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to do one more quick screen share to close us out for today. So again, one more time, this is the deal from I Like Crochet Digital Magazine. For just $5, you can get a 1-year subscription. So if you go to ilikecrochet.com/virtual23, that is how you can claim that deal. And then just a thank you to Dana once again for teaching the class today. If you have any questions that you come up, that may come up after you're watching the replay, you can reach us at jbowden@primecp.com. That is my email. And then Dana is dneald@primecp.com. So once again, thank you to Dana. Thank you to our sponsor, I Like Crochet, plus of course, Fave Crafts. That is our free crafting website. So if you want to sign up for the Fave Crafts newsletter for free, just go to favecrafts.com and you can sign up there. And then the I Like Crochet deal for just $5. You can't beat it. So thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Dana. And yeah, have a great afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you at some upcoming classes. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming, everyone.